Potential spam now, it's not.
You're serving spam.
They call me at the same time.
Yeah, that's stuff, thanks.
Clearly 2 o'clock is not the time of day to have a meeting. So, maybe it's just a spotlight on that.
Midnight.
I had to move
Wrong
wrong
day.
closer to
Well, I
where.
guess it's noon.
I'd be right here. Don't forget your.
Oh, let me read this.
Unless it's full, then I'll take it home.
I mean, it's just credit cards and stuff, so. You pretend to be me. Or driver's license.
No thanks.
Could have had a pause there, Trey.
It's hard enough being you.
It's not my decision. That's all.
I love, see?
It's not gonna do that.
Mine.
It's all fun.
Felt like my phone was good.
You want me to call you or what?
No. You call me now.
You okay with
Thank you.
it? You wanted that on there, right? Yes, you did.
Okay, it's 2 o'clock. I'd like to call this special meeting of the Southwest Lincoln Community Water and Sewer District to order. Please call the roll.
Mr. Stepp?
Here.
Mr. Platt?
Here.
Mr. KRETZMANN?
Here, let's rise and say the pledge of allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have an agenda before us. Is there any changes to it, corrections?
Can you make sure the light's all the way on? I think it's bouncing.
Red isn't good enough for you?
No. Or maybe turn it off and back on.
How's that?
More now.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
We have an agenda before us. Any changes to that?
No.
Hearing none, I'll move to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Mr. Stepp?
Yes.
Mr. Platt?
Yes.
Mr. KRETZMANN?
Yes, we have an agenda. Are there any public comments at this time?
There was a public comment online. I didn't know if the trustees wanted, we typically don't do that, but certainly up to the trustees.
What is it again?
There's a public comment online because.
A comment or a
Yeah, comment, which we typically haven't done, but wanted to.
We've allowed emails. Is it something somebody's typed in or something?
Correct, yeah.
We allow emails. Is it something they want us to read or something?
I believe so, yes.
So be it.
This is from Deb Moore. It says, I will be late and will miss public comments, so would like to submit one here. I would like to again thank the trustees and their staff for their integrity and continued diligence to the issues discussed today. Thank you.
Okay, well, if that's, she's going to be late, so if she wants to make public comments, we'll honor her with public comments. And anyone else's for that matter.
I have one.
Except yours.
Okay. I told you, Rodney Dangerfield in Lincoln County. No, I'm just going to follow up, and Trent knows this. I brought it up at the Township Trustee meeting, but I would like to, everyone talks about transparency, and I would like to see it's nice that you stream it, but it's my understanding these meetings aren't archived. And one of the commentaries I made at the trustee meeting, the Township Trustee meeting this week was that not just with Intel, but with all the development within the district, we do need more communication. I mean, even the county commissioners are talking about it. And Trent's report was great because it enlightened a lot of our citizens as well. We have a lot of questions, and even our staff and our trustees. And a lot of important things and decisions are made, obviously, at this board that affect not just the district, but particularly since I live in Etna developed. We just talked about it, the communication that the district has with Pataskala, which I think is a great idea. But if you can archive those meetings and go back to it and collect that information rather than just, that really helps facilitate of bringing all these different entities, including the school board, water and sewer, zoning, and I think that's an objective we all should be moving forward. As you know, Larry, when I was on the board, the fact that it's in the afternoon, many people can't attend here, that's one thing, but my thing is if you put this online, and it's been very helpful with what Mr. Evans has done with the township, being able to go back and catch up in case you can't make a meeting. So that's my advocacy, that's my request, and we have the technology and the funds these days to do those things. So that's my request to the board, that we move forward in that direction. And I'm advocating that for the township as well, so that our residents don't have to do it, but the township should be doing the same with their meetings as well.
We'll certainly take that under advisement, thank you.
Well, I hope you take action too, please.
Any other public comments? Our agenda calls for an executive session.
I will move to enter into executive session pursuant to RC 121.22G1 to consider the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, demotion, or compensation of John Carlisle as related to the general manager position for the Southwest Licking Community Water and Sewer District, and the investigation of charges or complaints against John Carlisle in that capacity, as well as pursuant to Ohio Revised Code 121.22G3 for conferences with an attorney for the public body concerning disputes involving the public body that are subject of pending or imminent court action and consistent with the injunctive relief ordered by the court in the lawsuit captioned of Carlisle v. Southwest Licking Community Water and Sewer District Board of Trustees, being case number 2020-CB00575. Invited into those those executive sessions would be the 3 board members, their chief legal counsel, and counsel Teeter and Teeter from the Teeter Law Firm. That is my motion.
I'll second.
And Mr. Stepp seconds Mr. Platte's motion. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Mr. Stepp?
Yes.
Mr. Platt?
Yes.
Mr. KRETZMANN?
Yes, we are now in executive session. We are going to take that to the room at the water plant right across the street. And we shall return.
We'll let you in there.
Right across the parking lot.
You open the door for us?
Recording into here. And you go.
Gary forgot my pizza.
Who ate it? Who gone that long? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to come out of executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Stepp, Mr. Platt, please call the roll.
Mr. Stepp?
Yes.
Mr. Platt?
Yes.
Mr. KRETZMANN?
Yes, we are now in regular session.
As I always do, I'll state for the record that the board made no decisions during the executive session, nor did the board take any actions while in the executive session.
The next item is trustee comments.
I'd like to say, for the record, under trustee comments, as far as discussion and consideration of the investigation conducted by attorney Janika Pierce Tucker concerning John Carlisle and his claims to the general manager position, the recent court ruling of April 22, 2022, in the lawsuit captioned Carlisle v. Southwest Licking Community Water and Sewer District Board of Trustees, being case number 2020-CB00575, and any potential board action that may be appropriate concerning John Carlisle, the general manager. That's what I'd like to discuss in trustee comments. During the executive session, the board and the attorneys of the board reviewed information regarding this case. The attorneys provided information to the board. Ultimately, at the end of the discussion, the attorneys offered various options for the board to consider regarding that case. Josephine, if I could verify we're on resolution 042 for the record, is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
So I'm willing to offer to the board consideration of a resolution. This would be resolution number 2020-042.
Excuse me, 2022.
I'm sorry. Offer resolution 2022, thank you, -042. The following resolution, be it resolved by the Board of Trustees of the Southwest Licking Community Water and Sewer District that Mr. Platt makes the following motion. Whereas the Licking County Common Pleas Court recently issued a decision regarding competing summary judgment motions submitted in Carlisle v. Southwest Licking Community Water and Sewer District, Board of Trustees, case number 2020 CV00575, a lawsuit filed by former board member John Carlisle. And whereas the court has concluded that John Carlisle does not have an enforceable contract with the board since his relationship was not one of contract, but rather ex lege. Is that correct? Did I say that? No, thanks. Whereas an independent investigation report was issued by attorney Janika Pierce Tucker concerning the unfair hiring process of John Carlisle, and whereas the court has concluded that the prior board action of March 26, 2020 was ineffective since the board went into executive session on that date without concluding reference to the consideration of the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employee or official as one of the reasons for the executive session. On that date, the board went into executive session to discuss the, quote, the investigation of charges or complaints against a public employee, official, licensee, or regulated individual concerning the independent investigation completed by Janika Pierce Tucker with respect to a complaint about John Carlisle that the board had received from Deborah Moore. Therefore, based on the independent investigation of attorney Janika Pierce Tucker and the opinion set forth by judgment entry issued by Licking County Common Pleas Court dated April 22, 2022, along with the information discovered during the lawsuit filed by former board member John Carlisle, the board hereby finds and determines that the employment process whereby John Carlisle was hired as the general manager for the district was not an open or fair process, and both the claimed employment contract and claims of continued employment by John Carlisle are unenforceable, null, and void ab initio. It is found and determined that all formal actions of this Board of Trustees concerning and related to the adoption of this resolution were adopted in an open meeting of this Board of Trustees, and that all deliberations of this Board of Trustees and all of its committees resulting in such formal action were in meetings open to the public in compliance with the law, including section 121.22 of the revised code. That is my motion that I offer to the board for consideration.
I'll second the motion. Is there any discussion?
I do have discussion related to the resolution. Recently, the Licking County Court of Common Pleas found John Carlisle's employment contract invalid under Ohio law, but also found this board's March 26, 2020 resolution did not conform to Ohio's Open Meetings Act. The court's decision did not condone the conduct of John Carlisle in an attempt to procure the employment with the district while he was still a board member, but simply found that there may have been a technical failure to comply with Ohio's Open Meetings Act. The board meets today to address this technical misstep and reconsider the matter based on the investigative report of attorney Janika Pierce Tucker, as well as the additional information that has been uncovered during Mr. Carlisle's lawsuit against the board. As determined by attorney Pierce Tucker's independent investigation, Mr. Carlisle's hiring was, quote, clearly not a fair employment process, end quote. And Mr. Carlisle, quote, inappropriately interfered with that process, end quote. Mr. Carlisle misused his position as a board member to try to obtain a lucrative golden parachute at the expense of the taxpayers, customers of this district. Since Ms. Pierce Tucker's March 26, 2020 report, additional information concerning Mr. Carlisle's purported hiring as general manager has come to light. The collective information includes, in part, A, that Mr. Carlisle expressly refused to interview any of the initial applicants for the general manager position while he was a board member and voted to try to change the job requirements to make himself eligible to apply for the position. B, that while he was still a board member, Mr. Carlisle informed multiple individuals that he planned and expected to be the next general manager of the district. C, that Mr. Carlisle resigned one evening, applied for the job the next morning, and was contingently hired the very next day. D, that Mr. Carlisle expressly recommended his good friend, Charles Haggie, to replace him on this board as Aetna's appointee the day before Carlisle applied for the general manager position. E, that Mike Fox, the father of Mr. Carlisle's live-in girlfriend, unilaterally arranged interviews for the general manager position the very same day that Mr. Carlisle applied, despite the agreement that interviews would only be conducted if all board members agreed. F, that Mike Fox personally posted the notice for meeting at which Mr. Carlisle was interviewed, despite the fact that he had never personally posted a meeting notice before. And G, that the meeting where Mr. Carlisle was conditionally hired was Mr. Haggie's very first meeting as a board member, and he approved the hiring of Mr. Carlisle as general manager of the district, despite having failed to A, review the bylaws of the district, B, meet or speak with any employees of the district, C, meet or speak with the prior general manager of the district, or D, review the job description for the general manager position before that meeting. It is not merely coincidental that Mr. Carlisle resigned one evening, applied for the general manager position the following morning, and was hired the very next day, with no other personal interviews conducted during the entire preceding 6 months. It should be noted that additional interviews scheduled for only 4 days later were unilaterally canceled by Mr. Fox even before a contract was proposed. Despite Mr. Carlisle's claim that the employment contract was substantially the same as the one held by the prior general manager, that is undeniably not true. Mr. Carlisle was permitted to draft his own contract, and he put in substantially different terms than those in the prior general manager's contract. The board's own employment specialist, who was hired to review Mr. Carlisle's draft contract, told the board not only that the proposed contract was not in the board's best interest, but determined that its termination provisions were ridiculous. The contract under which Mr. Carlisle was originally hired, by the way, was subsequently approved by Mr. Fox and Mr. Haggie, the only two individuals who refused to participate with the independent investigation conducted by Attorney Pierce Tucker. The Lincoln County Common Pleas Court has since determined that Mr. Carlisle's written employment contract is unenforceable as a matter of law. This type of political gamesmanship by the prior board has no place in the world of public employment where public funds are involved. The court found a technical violation of Ohio's Open Meetings Act when the board previously considered this matter on March 26, 2020. So this meeting is intended to comply with the court's rulings. Mr. Carlisle has demanded that the Water and Sewer District pay him over $500,000 for a total of only 11 days of work. I suggest that would be a colossal misuse of public funds. I have no other comments, Mr. Chair.
It's just that.
I have no comments.
I have no comments either. Please, we have no more discussion. Please call the roll.
Mr. STEPP?
Yes.
Mr. Platt?
Yes.
Mr. KRETZMANN?
Yes. Resolution 042 is approved as presented. General manager's comments. Manager report.
Got a resolution to approve the Gale Road Environmental Control Facility Biosolid Removal Program contract. We had one bidder on that contract, Carlisle Wheeler's Biosolids Company, who currently hauls our biosolids.
So your recommendation is to approve the resolution?
Correct.
I'll make the resolution.
Is this 043?
Yes.
Thank you. You moved the resolution 043, is that correct?
Yes.
I'll second the resolution.
It is as presented, but I can read it. Whereas the district is in need of biosolids removal for the Gale Road Environmental Control Facility, and whereas the general manager solicited bids from contracting companies and the district received bids from the contracting companies as shown on Exhibit A, and whereas the general manager has reviewed the bids and recommends that the district enter into the contract with Carl Wheeler, Inc. to complete the proposed project for the Gale Road Environmental Control Facility biosolids removal program and our standard. Therefore, the Board of Trustees approved the contract for Carl Wheeler, Inc. to provide the Gale Road Environmental Control Facility biosolids removal program in an amount not to exceed $140,017.50 for the dates of 4/15/2022 through 12/31/2023, with the optional third-year price of $70,008.75 for the dates 1/1/2024 through 12/31/2024, and hereby authorizes the President of the Board of Trustees to sign the award attached hereto and the notice to proceed, and that it is found and determined that all formal actions of the Board of Trustees concerning and related to the adoption of the resolution were adopted in an open meeting of this Board of Trustees, and that all deliberations of the Board of Trustees and or any of its committees resulted in such formal action were in meeting open to the public in compliance with the law, including section 121.22 of the revised code of Ohio.
Thank you. My second stands.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Steph?
Yes.
Mr. Platt?
Yes.
Mr. KRETZMANN?
Yes. Resolution 043 is approved as presented.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. President, I'm aware that the board has a need for an additional executive session, so I will move to enter into executive session pursuant to Ohio Revised Code 121.22G1 to consider the appointment, employment dismissal, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employee or official. The executive session will be held over at the conference room of the water plant. Invited into the executive session will be the 3 board members. At various times throughout the executive session, our chief legal counsel will be invited to attend, and then also our acting general manager, Mr. Gilcher. That is my motion.
I'll second that motion. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Mr. Steph?
Yes.
Mr. Platt?
Yep.
Mr. KRETZMANN?
Yes, we're now in executive session.
Billy didn't stay?
We got filled up on pizza.
Is this just for the record, just for a copy?
Yeah.
You scheduled a special meeting next week too.
Scheduled a regular meeting.
Well, there's a special on the 4th.
Oh, 3.
Right? The 3.
That's fun.
Great study.
Great study. I think we ordered 2 years ago.
What's their name? Raftillis. There's too many
When is that?
companies that have
Thursday at 3.
3.
You made the motion.
Oh, I did see it on here.
We ready?
Yep.
I'll move that we come out of executive session.
Second.
Mr. Platt seconds the motion. Please call the roll.
Mr. Steph?
Yes.
Mr. Platt?
Yes.
Mr. KRETZMANN?
Yes, we are now in regular session.
And again, for the record, no decisions were made nor actions taken while in the executive session.
Trustee comments?
I have none at this time.
I do not have any either.
I can't think of a good word to say, so I will move to adjourn.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Mr. Steph?
Yes.
Mr. Platt?
Yes.
Mr. KRETZMANN?
Yes, we are adjourned.